Hey mamas, it's Kristen Noel, founder of the Intuitive Divorce, popping on here straight after class with my beautiful team member, Master Coach Joe Young. And we just got out of a dance party. That's right, a
A
dance
literal
party,
dance
a
party.
literal dance party. God, that is so needed and so important. Why do we not give ourselves more dance parties? Again, I say this over and over. We never know where class is going to lead because we never know how everybody's showing up, what they're dealing with, what's been going on in the in-betweens from one week to the next. But one thing that happened last week that was remarkable, and I'm going to dive into this a little bit just to distinguish why this work in the intuitive divorce is so important and why it's a game changer because it's not just about divorce strategy. And listen, we unpack divorce strategy from top to bottom, whether that's dealing with attorneys, mediators, co-parenting, finances, you name it. But at the core of everything is you, mama, is you and the condition that you're in. And nothing sets the stage more than that. And how you show up for self, how you honor self, nurture self, and get yourself through it all. And by the way, you've got needs and you need to give yourself permission. And I promise you, you have a need that needs you. So last week, this one mama was sharing the frustration of some triggers that she was experiencing in her divorce process. And she very quickly segued to, I'm going to call this little me, a version of herself as a child who ended up thinking it was her job and her responsibility to take care of her mom and to take care of her sister. And it was like we all just listened and we were leaning in because we knew she was really touching on something very important for herself and her healing journey. Now, I want to just step out of that for 1 second and say this isn't like going down a dark hole, dark night of the soul experience when you're already feeling overwhelmed and all the divorce strategy. This is really about putting the pieces of your life together, connecting the dots so that you can heal, so that you can see, oh, wow, I see how this led to this, led to this, led to this.
Mhm.
And I'm going to break that pattern now. And so this mama quickly, as she was telling us this, began to realize, with a little nudging from us, that that was a setup. The man she married was a perfect match for that wound. Now, again, without judging anyone else, not judging her mom, her family of origin, her husband, this is all about her and her journey and her emotions and what she made it be for her. Whether it was truth or not truth, it was how she felt. It was what got imprinted upon her, but it informed how she moved through life. And being able to recognize that is the way you free yourself, is the way you do not repeat what you don't want to repeat. So this was like a beautiful conversation that I just said, okay, we got to dive in here. So over the course of the last week, we asked everyone to just sort of explore this notion of kind of going back and remembering a version of little me, going through old photos, find a picture that really speaks to you, and remember who you were in that picture and what you were thinking and what was getting imprinted on you. And you might just be so surprised what comes up. And then when you start thinking about how did that little girl grow up? What was she carrying through the other chapters of her life? How did it all thread to here? I know I'm covering a lot of territory, but today's class, well, first of all, was hilarious because everybody sent me these gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous baby pictures or young adult pictures that literally I just couldn't stop looking at all week long. And then we made a whole screen. So we started class and we had all these pictures and we just basked in that for a little bit. And then we kind of went around the container and just dove into what was coming up. Why did you pick that picture? What does that mean to you? the biggest thing here is it informs the stories that you tell about yourself now, the story of who you are. And you'll be so surprised what comes up. The things that you feel guilty about, or the things that you regret, or the things you wish you had done, or what we got to free ourselves from all of that. And it's possible. So anyway, I know that's a lot, but it was amazing to see. And of course, Joe, you had just the cutest little picture ever.
Thank you. It was so fun. And I went down such a rabbit hole with that assignment, which I loved. So, yeah, it really is about going back and claiming all the parts of us and asking the questions. And I loved what you said about it's not about blaming anyone for our circumstances. It's about observing what data can I take from this? We say that all the time. What's it here to show you? And so if that picture is speaking to you, what is that little girl saying to you? What needs to be heard from her? And what is she looking for you to say back to her that maybe the people in her life weren't capable of saying in that moment? But you as the adult are. And so there's such an opportunity here to reclaim those pieces of ourselves. And I found it fascinating today that most of the pictures that we saw were versions that the mamas would look back and say, oh, I used to be that, or I used to be such a happy child, or I used to feel so confident. And it's like, that's still in you.
Hmm.
It's just waiting for you to claim it again. And so the power of this work with little children is, I mean, it's immense and it changes everything because it doesn't mean, to your point, that we go back and we revisit all these scenarios. What it does mean is that we can look at them, ask what they're here to show us, and then we get to exponentially heal something within ourselves that goes back for decades and even generations. So it's such incredible work, and we had so much fun with it today, and we laughed, and we there were tears and meaningful moments, as there always are in this class, and some real unveiling, I think, and moments
Mm.
about, oh, I see now where that played such an important role in my life and in my relationship that I don't need to continue to repeat. And
Hmm.
that's the game changer, because otherwise we repeat the pattern. So
Absolutely. We've often been invited to do, sort of exercises where it's like, what would you say to your younger self? But this is different. This is a different exploration because you're really going to go back and you're going to sit with remembering. And we're so busy, right? We're so busy outsmarting ourselves, checking things off our to-do list that we don't make time for this. But it's so incredible to witness what we witnessed today. Because even though it started last week and we asked everyone to just sit with it and send us some pictures, there were tears, really beautiful breakthroughs and tears today about remembering the things we love about ourselves. And it's also about creating space for feelings. We can't outrun our feelings. We can't deny. I mean, rarely do we wake up and say, "Hey, today's a great day to explore all these icky feelings." All these things I don't really want to look at. But that doesn't mean it goes away. So what we instead do is we just keep carrying it around and taking on more and pasting on a happy face and people pleasing and eventually that's just not sustainable and something's got to give and something's got to blow. So the thing also that was so gorgeous is that sitting in that container today, I really commended and celebrated these women because they took on this, I don't know, little challenge, little exercise, little exploration with such curiosity and heart. It was a really nurturing exercise
mhm,
and made breakthroughs, really big breakthroughs that are informing how they show up, not only in their divorce, but how they're showing up as mothers, how they're showing up as daughters, how they're showing up as friends, as partners, as coworkers, as human beings.
mhm.
We forget this connection, this thread that connects us all to this human experience.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I found it interesting today that there was this common theme that was coming up for some of the moms around. It's almost like what we call wound comparison, where, oh, somebody else has it so much worse than I do. And
Hmm.
we're taught when we're little, don't complain.
Hmm.
You have it so much better than somebody else.
Hmm.
And what that does is it teaches us to not trust how we feel.
And
It teaches us
to
to
diminish our
diminish,
own feelings.
yes,
Yeah.
and to feel guilty for how we feel.
Hmm.
And when we don't have that validated, we grow up into these humans who feel like they can't trust their own feelings, which is why we end up in bad marriages,
Hmm.
which is why we end up not being able to ask for what we need,
Hmm.
not being great communicators, because we never learned how. And
Hmm.
so we were able to say to this one mom today, if you looked into the eyes of that child, would you say to that picture, to that little girl in that picture, you don't have a right to feel the way that you feel? You can't trust
That was so
yourself.
powerful.
And she was like, never. And I'm like, but isn't it interesting that that's currently what's happening until you see it and you go, wow, I really can heal that part of me, and to show myself that
Hmm.
I'm so worthy to feel everything that I feel, that I don't need outside validation to
Hmm.
tell me that I'm justified. And so there just were some beautiful moments like that. That was one example, but that's how you use these little child pictures to teach you something about yourself and to have a conversation with yourself that allows real exponential healing.
Hmm.
When you do that, you'll
Well,
no longer need outside validation for how
yeah.
you feel.
Thank you so much for bringing that point up. The key is you're probably sitting there saying, well, how does this translate to my divorce? Well, I'll tell you exactly how it translates to your divorce. I mean, in real time, we went through this exercise and we would look at the picture and we'd listen to the mama and she'd tell the story and she'd pull us in and we were hearing this. And then these like light bulbs were popping and going off and all of a sudden making these really powerful connections, and they were making connections to real time. It was like, oh my God, now I understand why calling my lawyer after receiving this enormous bill and advocating for myself was so hard. Now I know why I was so triggered receiving a completely amended settlement. Now I know why it's so hard for me to stick to this divorce and not let him talk me out of it. So these were the kinds of things that were happening. So we were processing this is how quickly you can actually move through this. And
Mm-hmm.
it's why it's so important to show up for self, to have a space where you can just let it go and you can process. And this is exactly what mamas need because there's been a long runway to here. There's been a lot of time abandoning self. Someone was saying, I need to be seen, I need to be heard, I need to be validated. And I just turned to her and said, sweetheart, it starts here. You need to see yourself. You need to hear yourself. You need to validate yourself. You need to advocate for self. You need to nurture self. You need to love self. And this is how you change the path and the trajectory of your divorce for you and your kids and your future. And this is exactly what women who want a better path to a better divorce are doing. And it's called an intuitive divorce. And the women that are doing it are divorcing smarter. They're healing faster. They're protecting their kids. And you know what? They are reclaiming their lives. And it's just glorious to witness.
It's so beautiful. And it is, yes, the healing to get them through their divorce. And they no longer have to repeat the patterns that they've been repeating. And
Hmm.
so their future is unlimited.
Hmm.
Their future is so bright. And that's what we want for each and every person who is navigating this really difficult time, is to support you, to hold your hand, to see where you're not alone, to be able to guide you to your best future self, because that's what this is all about.
And the other thing it just made me think of, which also we unpacked today, is that one of the mamas said, I don't know why this is all percolating right now and why it feels like it's entering work and it's entering the house and it's entering my motherhood and it's work. And I was like, because that's how it works. We can't compartmentalize who we are. Yes, we like to let's keep that away from here and this away from that. But that's just not the way you work. So, yes, we're seeing that as women are leaning into this work, it is impacting their work in positive ways. It is impacting their relationships with their children. It's impacting their divorce proceedings. So that, and aside from the fact that it's just impacting them, we couldn't get them out of class today. We're like, guys, gotta go. We're really over time, really over time. And they're like, wait, one more song, one more song. And it was like a triumphant dance party. And I want you to know these women are in the midst of messy divorces, feeling many of the same things that you're feeling, and they are no different than you. They are just showing up for themselves, and this is available to you. And nothing, 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 nothing gives us greater pleasure than to be a part of that and to walk beside mamas, be the guardrails, and just to keep propping them back up and reminding them who they are and what they are capable of. I mean, that is basically that just lights us up. So,
Yes. And by the way, a dance party is also a phenomenal way to regulate your nervous system. A phenomenal way. So we got it all in today.
you and I
So
really, we just went to town. We
yeah.
were like, I didn't even know half of these songs because I don't have young kids, but it was wonderful to see all these empowering, female empowering songs that are like out there with kids right now. And we just had this fabulous dance party. So we invite you to come dance with us. And it starts over at intuitivedivorce.com. So please, please, please make sure that you are on our newsletter list. Follow us at Intuitive Divorce on social media. Check out our app and just know that you're not alone. And you don't have to go through this by yourself. And there's so many ways to heal in the mess of divorce and all the upheaval and all the overwhelm. And I hope that this has in some way inspired you and stirred something within you. First and foremost, go dig out a picture of yourself from when you were a kid. Maybe it's a picture you love. Maybe it's a picture of a moment you remember where something in your life changed. But I invite you to go and explore this. And we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, please share with us because we get as much fuel and energy out of seeing what these pictures mean to you as you do being in the process with them. So, yes, share with us. We'd love to see.
And thanks for being here with us today. And we're just
Yeah,
sending you a little love and just again reminding you that you are not alone.
that's right. Till next time.